Hey there, and welcome to Matt's Garage. Even though we're not in a garage today, but we're going to be replacing these lower control arms on this 2003 PT Cruiser. It's a really simple job, and this video will apply to all years of PT Cruisers. They never changed the control arm design, and what I recommend doing is getting these complete MOG replacement arms. They come ready to bolt in. The only thing sometimes you might have to put the grease nipple in. They always come like in a little package like this, and sometimes they're not in there, so you just have to thread them in. That's pretty straightforward. And other than that, you might want to order new sway bar end links, because you do have to get that off to change this as well. And if your car's all rusty or anything, it won't want to come off. This car's from California, so I oiled them up there the other day, and should come apart easy and go back together, and that's all still in good shape. So we're going to go ahead and swap that over. The one other thing you could consider doing, especially if your car is rusty, is get in here through this hole with one of those like straws on an aerosol penetrating oil like WD-40 or PB Blaster or something, and just try and get those threads in there oiled up. And I'm actually not going to do that because this car is not rusty, so it's not going to be an issue here. But on cars with rust in here, there's a chance that the threaded nut insert in here that's welded on the back side could break loose, and then you'd have a big issue trying to fix that. You might have to cut open the structure or something and weld in there. So that's something you could consider. But the reason why I don't want to do it is because I don't want all that oil built up in here later. It'll trap dust and dirt and could cause rust and stuff. So avoid that if you can, but if you're at all worried about it, that's one thing you can do. So of course, one of the first steps you do is take the wheel off, and I like to put the wheel under the car just for extra security. And what you want to do is actually block up the car under the pinch weld right there. I'll show you on the other side. I have it blocked up like that already, because you have to access that bolt head. That's normally my preferred jacking location, but in this case we'll have to block the car up just like this. You see where I have the blocks, and they're just under that lip there. That's a safe place to block, as long as your car's not terribly rusty. Again, if it was really rusty, that area might want to collapse on you, but and again over here it's the same thing. There's that access there if you want it to try and get some oil inside the beam there. So I'm going to remove that jack out of there, and I'll put blocking like that on the other side, and we'll be good to go here. And one other thing you can do, one other area you can oil. See right up in here, this is the back side of your front mount bolt there. That's where it threads in, so just try and get up in there with some oil and oil that before you take it apart too. So this rear one is 24 millimeters. The front one here is 21 millimeters. And then this pinch bolt is 18 millimeters on the nut, and it's 15 millimeters on the back side here. So you hold it with a wrench on the back side, and if you hit it with an impact here, and just get that off. And then this is 15 millimeters on the sway bar link here, and then you hold the top piece here with a pair of vice grips. Works pretty good. So you don't have to take any of the brakes apart, or you don't have to worry about the strut or any of that. That all works itself out. You just take the actual arm off. So like I said, 15 on here. Just let the vice grips bind up against the tie rod, will work there. So there we go. Even on this California car, this was a rusty thing a little bit. You can see they normally rust and break right off here. This one's just starting to rust, but they wither away to nothing. And then we'll just go and do the other side, because that's why I can't pull this down. It's still attached on the other side. So there you can see that's how your sway bar end link is oriented. The other one all kind of came apart as I was taking it out, but this one stayed together as a unit. Okay, so I've got the other side off now, so I'll be able to just pull this down. It's a good sign that it's a little stiff. It means the bushings up here are still in good shape. Okay, so next we got the pinch bolt here. Just make sure you use an actual wrench to hold the back side, because you could destroy your ratchet if you're using an impact on this side. Never use an impact against a ratchet. So we'll put that wrench there and hold it. And then we got an 18mm here. There we go, that's our pinch bolt. So just thread that back together so we can keep track of it easily. Put it aside. And then you can see there's a split here in this, and what you want to do is get into that split with something like that, little pry bar, and just spread it. So you can hammer on it lightly and you can pry a little bit, and that'll just loosen that right up, and then we'll be able to pry the control arm down out of the spindle. Now the reason why I'm replacing these control arms is this boot here is actually ruptured. It's got a crack in it, especially on the other side it does. But I'll show you what commonly goes on these, what commonly fails. So what commonly fails is the rear bushing here, and this one looks like it's starting to crack apart. But when they get really bad, the control arm will start contacting the K-frame, the subframe here, and you'll actually see wear marks in the subframe, and you'll hear it clunking on every bump. So unfortunately these ones aren't to that point yet. It's just that these ball joints here, as soon as they get a rupture in that boot there, they get water in there and they don't last very long. So for safety reasons, I'm going to be replacing these today. Okay, so we're just going to get in there with the pry bar like this, and we'll see if we can work this off the spindle. Another option is to put a jack between the control arm and the car and jack it down. I've done that before too, but I normally go for this way first, and if it works, it works. Of course you could mess up the boot doing this, but we're replacing the part, so it doesn't matter. You can see I'm making progress there. So yeah, really long bolt, and you can see even on this car it has a little rust. So I'm going to wire wheel that all and oil it up before I put it back in, so that it's not a problem the next time this car needs new control arms. So now I should be able to zip the front one out with my impact. Just going to use a swivel on here and a 21, like I say. And I don't know if you noticed, but see, that's just on a tab, so you'll have to hold that back up in there as you thread it together. And just thread your fasteners back together. That just makes it simpler. Okay, so now we just got to get this apart here, and it might help a little bit now that this is kind of free to move around. There we go. You might have to just persuade it out a little bit with a pry bar. There, I think we got her now. Normally they're easier to get out, but normally this rear joint is completely worn out, so I think it was just because this was twisted and jamming in there. And see, this side wasn't so bad, but I like to replace in pairs. The other side was really bad. The boot's all cracked, and this one, the joint is notchy, so it's due. So this is what I like to use for wire wheel, and just go over that now and clean it up. So yeah, some people like anti-seize. I just use this 3-in-1 oil, and never has really done me wrong. Everything seems to come apart again pretty easy if I ever have to go back in there again. So this one, I'll really goop this one up pretty good. Okay, and now we'll just clean out the pocket where this is. If you had some compressed air, it might work good, but I don't have my air hose strung out here, so I'll just wipe it out. just so that there's not all that mud in there just holding moisture all the time basically. Same thing here at the front. So they actually give us a new pinch bolt here. So we'll just put a little oil on it and we'll use it. They don't always come with these, I don't think. I don't recall that before. That's nice though. So otherwise we're just ready to jam that right up in there. Remember, you have to put this up behind that front one, but you can just put that in first to align it. Now that one you might need to use a hammer to tap it up and just get the bushing squared up in there, because the bushing tries to fight you when you're trying to line it up. So that's why the bolt is pointed on the end, to make it so you can hammer it in like this. We'll just tighten that up. We'll just use the hand ratchet. Just make sure that it's starting smoothly and not cross-threading is all. So I'll just rattle that tight with the impact and then I'll check it again with the ratchet. And if you're watching, you could see all the pieces of metal kind of suck up together, and that's what we were looking for. And now we'll just confirm the torque on it. I'll put some captions for the torque specs here. I just kind of do what I think is right. So that's plenty tight. Now we just got to do the front one and then we can get the spindle in. So we got to hold that up there and be careful you don't pinch your fingers, especially if you're using an impact to start it. Okay, that should be started. Okay, and you just get your fingers out of there as soon as you can. Like I say, you don't want to pinch them in there. So we're not going to actually torque this up finally until we put the car down on the ground, the weight of it on the ground, because of the way this bushing flexes. You want to tighten it at ride height. The rear one doesn't matter because it flexes the opposite way, but for this one, and it'll make it easier to get the spindle into. So now we're going to do the spindle next, and then like I say, when we're all done here, this is mostly snugged up. When we're all done, I'll just go up here by hand and lock it down. So I'm just going to pry this down a little bit so that I can get that spindle lined up in there. It's fighting me a little, and on the other side I might try a different approach and put that up in there first. So I'm just having to manhandle the whole spindle and kind of push it in to line this up. There we go. It's going now. Okay guys, this is being a little stubborn getting up in here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put this scissor jack under it and just jack it into place basically. Just don't jack under the grease nipple is all, but otherwise should be fine. Okay, now you can see right through there, so I can put my pinch bolt through there. There's like a half round in the shaft there for the pinch bolt to go through, so make sure you have it all lined up. So just make sure the pinch bolt goes through from the front to the back, so that the nut and the threads are on the back side of it, and that way if rocks hit it or whatever, they're not damaging the threads. And don't forget, it has to suck the metal together in there, so you have to rattle on it for a minute with the impact and then check it by hand. The only real difference over on the right side here is that this lower motor mount is actually in the way of the front mounting bolt there. So you have to remove this, and you don't really have to support the engine. You may have to jack the engine up slightly to get this to line up again, but other than that, the middle mount is what holds the weight of the engine, so it won't fall down. It might just swing back a little. That's a 15, that's a 13 I believe, and then there's another fastener under that to take that out, and then you take this end off as well, and then we can access that 21mm bolt there. Same deal on the rear bolt. Already oiled everything and all that stuff, so I'm just gonna get to it here. Okay, so it's an 18 here. You can see what I mean. The engine moved a little bit, just a touch. And then this one is a 15. So I just got a swivel on there now so I can get access in there behind the brake caliper and just take this 15 off. Okay, now I gotta take this upper 13 off. So that frees up that bracket, just that 13, and sometimes they have a, this one has a welded nut in behind, but sometimes they don't, and they have a little nut with a tab on it that you kind of have to hold up there, so be watching for that on some of them. Now this is an 18 again here. Same thing, use my swivel set up there. There we go. That just comes out nice and easy. So now that the motor mount is out of the way, we've got full access to the 21 in there, and it's pretty straightforward. It's exactly the same as on the other side. This side was less rusty too, and that's often the case. Is the left side of the car will be more rusty because of the road spray when you pass other cars in the rain or snow or whatever, and it washes up on the left side of your car. So there's that 21. So that insert stuck up in the hole there. There we go. There we go. We got her. So this right here is the entire reason that we're replacing these parts, because of this torn boot. So you want to be really careful when you put your new ones on that you don't damage that boot, because you can see how quickly the moisture gets in there. That's already all getting rusty in there, and it wouldn't take long at all before it got dangerously loose. When you install it, this has to face inward, that half notch out of there. So you want to just pull your boot down on your new one and look and make sure that's oriented right. These are normally the fail point on these control arms, and you can see that this one is far from perfect. It's got some cracking going on in there. See that? That's all the crack there. So this is basically where you inspect these control arms normally, but of course that's a no-go too, so you want to check that. And you can get these parts separate. You can get all these parts separate, but it ends up costing you nearly what a new arm cost, so it just makes sense to get a complete arm. Okay, so here we go with our other side, and what you want to do, see that boot's way up there, but if you pull it down and look for that, see, it's not oriented right here. It's facing there, and I need it to be back here. Needs to face the back of the arm, so that's why there's a hex on here. You can just turn that. I think that's a 15. No, it's not a 15. It's a vice grip apparently. As easy as that. That's how you want to have it oriented. Okay, so we're just going to jam it up there now. Okay, that's kind of working. You can see that is going in like that, and I just got to work that hinge point back in basically. So I'm just going to get up here and kind of push on it with my body right on the brake rotor here. And at the same time, I'm going to kind of hold up on this to make sure it doesn't pop out of here. I think that worked. Yeah. Okay. So that one I'll probably have to put a jack under that still to get it all the way where I want it. Now on the other side, these were rusty, so I scrubbed them with a wire wheel. If they're not rusty, don't do that because they have plating on them to prevent them from rusting. So I'm just going to oil these because they're in good shape. There we go. I just had to rock it around a little bit. Okay, it's not all the way up there though. You can see how that lines up in there now. And you may just have to turn your whole spindle a little bit too, back and forth, just to line it up perfectly if it's a little off. And then just throw that new pinch bolt in there. New pinch bolt going in from the front. Hold it on the front side with a 15 and 18 from the back side. Okay, so we did it right up, so what we're going to do now is just back it off a turn. See, that's still loose in there on the bushing now. So now we want to set the weight of the car on it again and then torque it up. So that means we'll have to leave our bogging motor mount out for now. And again, when you put that tab in place, if you're using an impact to start it like me, please make sure you grip it by the sides. Get your fingers out of there instantly. Be very careful. You can chop your fingers right off. Okay, here we go. Got that all stacked back on there, so we move it up as a unit into both arms at once. And you might have to just go back and forth and manhandle each end a bit. It's jamming up over on the other side right now. So I just got to go and manhandle this bolt around until I get it through the hole and then come back over here. There we go. If you just spin that, spin it to win it. The other side kind of half made it up there. And then there's this, you remember that from when we took it apart, of course. And that threads down from the top. Now when you torque these down, I don't know if there is a torque spec for them, but you kind of just look for the bushings to start to expand a little. You don't want to really sandwich them out. They're supposed to have some give to them when they're all tight, so don't overdo it on those. You know, probably like only 10 foot-pounds or something is all it takes to accomplish what's required here. So, and then I just like to grab it with vice grips. It does have some sort of a hex on there. I'm not even sure what size it is. Maybe 21 or something. But really, vice grips get in there nice. Now we can just hit it underneath with the impact. It's just 15. Probably about right. And now we'll go to the other side and do the same thing. So one thing you can do is make sure you have an equal amount of threads at the top. So I'm just going to tighten this one a bit more so it matches the other side, which has about 3/8 of an inch of thread hanging out. And this one has a little under a quarter right now, so it needs to increase to match the other side. See what I mean there? Now I'll go show you on the other side. Pretty well matches. See over there, pretty well matches. Okay guys, I'm just about to get the wheels on and get it down on the ground. Then I can check the alignment. I can tighten up the control arm bushings there once it's sitting down with its weight on it. But first I want to go ahead and grease these new tie rod ends and also the ball joints down there. So I'll just set you up and just show you that. It's pretty basic, but so one thing I like to do when I'm greasing things is first always make sure the grease nipple's completely clean. If they're rusted up, I'd take a wire wheel to them. You don't want to push that rust in there or anything. And then the grease gun, if it's been sitting around, especially like mine normally has, I just like to do a pump of grease out of it first and wipe off the end of it here so that you don't push any contaminants into your grease nipple there, and then you just put that on there firmly, kind of locks on there, and so you can kind of feel the boot there. You can actually, it might take quite a bit to fill them up, it just depends. There, it's starting to ooze out there a bit, so we don't really want that, so I overdid it a bit, but I put like a dozen pumps in there. And then there's the one down here on the control arm. I just put about 5 in that one. It didn't seem to take as much. So if they're new joints, so they can certainly take more. If you're just doing a maintenance greasing later on, it's only going to take like 2 or 3 pumps to fill them back up. So here we go. It's after dark, but I got the wheel back on, and I'm just going to torque this with the sitting at ride height and the weight of the vehicle on it. So one thing you can do to make this a little easier, you can put some blocks under your tires so that your car is sitting higher up, but the weight of it's still sitting on the tires. Okay guys, I'm just finishing up here. I already torqued that up, and then I took the wheel back off just to give me some good access to get this motor mount back in place. So of course you have to shove it up there first, and even if it does line up, because there's a slot back here, you want to lift the engine a bit and take some pressure off the upper mount, because these two mounts are supposed to share the rotating forces of the engine. So you want them both to have equal pressure, and that's why you have that alignment mark up there to set it. And if you have it set, you'll have to lift the front of the engine just a bit. So one of these jacks works the best because it kind of pulls back as it lifts up. And so yeah, now I can just lock these two 18 mils down solid, and put that little brace back in there, and then just that plastic cover shield. Then I'm done. So thanks a lot for watching Matt's Garage. I do hope you found this video helpful and informative. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have yourself a great day.